Why do I look so good to talk about Urticaria? Dunno, mate. Hi, pals, it's me, Artie, then in pronouns only. I have a long history of allergies, particularly relating to the skin, but never really considered serious enough for anyone to do much about, even though they've been chronic and got in the way of lots of things. It's always been, no, bitch, get out my office. What are you doing here? When I was young, I'd often get heat rash from the sun or grass in the summer. I couldn't use 90% of beauty or hygiene products because they would cause my skin to react. I've had to use non-bio laundry detergent for my whole life for the same reason. I had eczema, which I don't remember a lot about exactly, but I've always just kind of had like dry skin on my face, though that's supposedly because of my underactive thyroid. I don't know. And yeah, like just skin issues all over the place, you know? As I got older, the options for hygiene and beauty products got better. So I at least started to have some decent options for moisturizer, face wash, body wash, etc. And I wasn't allergic to as many things on my body anymore, although I do still use non-bio detergent. But I spent 3 years in London for university, and every time I returned home in the summer, I get full body hives. I got that like 2 out of 3 summers. It was rough. That was a really bad time. It was pretty extreme. It was like face, full body hives, swelling. Some parts of my face had swollen, like around my eyes. A lot of redness, really big hive welts. I would have to lock myself away in my room for like a week to 2 weeks around the peak pollen time. I'm not sure if I ever really got used to it or if it's because I started immune suppressing medications not long after that. I think probably the latter. I graduated in 2018, and by 2019, I was on mercaptopurine for my Crohn's disease. 2020 was then adalimumab, and then shortly after steroids, which we know are very common in treating a whole host of health issues, including skin issues and allergies. I don't think I've had a typical hive reaction since before being on these medications. I think sometimes I get a milder looking bumpy hive, but now my problem's a bit different. Different but still sore. I also just have like multi-system allergy reactions. I'll try to stick to the skin, as that's kind of like what we're mainly discussing at the moment, because of some recent developments in my healthcare. There's plenty to say as well about just skin alone without going into everything else. So, as you know, I've mentioned this many times, I have had pretty bad facial flushing. It started quite mildly in my early 20s when drinking alcohol, pretty common. Most people have something like that, and being in rooms that are a bit too hot. But it has gotten worse since. As I said, post uni, I was on loads of immune suppressing medications, still on a bunch, so my typical hives have stopped. But what started happening more and more was the facial flushing. It used to be more subtle, where it looked, more like a little bit of a rosy cheek, or like, like that the look people get when they do have one too many drinks at the pub with their mates. 2019 was when I was diagnosed with Crohn's, and a whole load of Crohn's issues came up, including erythema nodosum, as well as abscesses that needed to be drained. Those are also classified under like skin and possibly even dermatology kind of issues as well, I guess. And my skin also on my face wasn't great in this period of time, and often got worse during Crohn's flares. I did make a blog post about that quite a while ago when it was sort of happening, and it would usually clear up when I went on higher doses of steroids or generally managed my gut inflammation. I just remember sometime in the last 2-ish years, the flushes being a lot worse, almost constantly on the edge of being triggered again. I was losing my mind over this a bit because there was just like no pattern half the time, or there were like numerous patterns all at the same time, and it was hard to work out what was what. Many of my safe skincare products were no longer safe for me either, or they were only safe sometimes. I just never really knew when it was going to be which. One example is my Aveeno I use. I often use the body ones for my face. I like, it's honestly, don't don't get me started. But basically, I used the body ones on my face because that's kind of all they had at the beginning of like when I first noticed. Like, when Jennifer Aniston had all her fucking adverts for them, it was just like two body ones. One was green, one was dark blue. I used both, but mainly used the dark blue one because it's for like really sensitive and really dry skin. It's more of like a balm, and it's very to be fair, I could do with like a repeat application, but it's usually still quite dewy, sticky, whatever you want to say, but isn't like the worst thing to put on your face when you're autistic. However, now they've got more options out as well. I sometimes get an allergic response like around my mouth or lip area to those ones I just mentioned. I did try the baby selection. They have a baby selection. I'm allergic to the baby stuff. I'm allergic to the baby formula. I can't use the baby moisturizer on my face. I'm allergic. What do you mean? I sometimes use like the oat based products that they have, mainly again just their moisturizer balm thing, because that is really good if you're having like a really bad time with your skin being allergic to everything. That was like one of the few things that my skin could tolerate at some of its worst points. But yeah, that's just an example of like, these are safe products for me, but then sometimes no, sometimes no. So yeah, like especially when it came to like the lip thing, sometimes they'd swell a little bit, usually they'd be red and itchy, but yeah, no other part of my face. My cleanser that I've used for years, even though it's like not available anywhere, I have to go through Amazon to even find them anymore. That started to cause my skin to like tingle and prickle a bit, so I stopped using that one, even though it was like the only one I liked for years. And the same with a few of my primers and a few other simple products. I can never use any face wipes, whether they're baby wipes, sensitive, fragrance free, simple. Like any wipe is bad. Like I'll use a wipe quickly if I have to, but then I'll have to basically like cleanse it off or like quickly rinse it off, because otherwise it will start irritating my face skin the longer that stuff is on my face without being washed off. Like, lord help me, lord help me. Annoyingly, this is something that is quite common, like just anyway, just common, it's just common with allergic reactions. You're more likely to have allergic reactions on your face and generally on areas of skin that are thinner and more sensitive, like your lips or around your eyes, just because the skin is thinner and more sensitive generally. It is also common to develop allergies to products that you've already been using for years, develop allergies to your environment. Many people develop allergies at random points through their life. It's just unfortunate that it's most common when it's things in your environment, things you use or are in contact with day to day. Pets as well, you can suddenly become allergic to pets. And it is really frustrating when it was something that was previously safe to you. Stress is one of the few things that definitely starts it off like pretty badly, like pretty, it's very predictable. If I was getting ready to leave my house, even if it was for a social outing to see friends, it would start getting hot on my cheeks and wouldn't go away. And obviously as well, like my experience is that it will start in small patches and like kind of spread. So yeah, like trying to manage the spread before leaving, but also knowing that because it's already started means it's more likely to come back and keep getting worse when you want to spend the day out with people and take photos of you and your friends. It's just really frustrating because you just feel very like sensitive and self-conscious. And yeah, it's just embarrassing really. If anything, this was also more stressful in itself as it doesn't really go away for long periods of time. Like it usually takes hours for it to really heal, if not days. And that fact in itself makes me more upset and more frustrated about the idea of leaving the house with my face having a mild flare up, because I was, already worried about what it looked like, but also worried about it possibly getting worse. This was around the time that my body was feeling like in constant fight or flight mode, just before I started propranolol. Honestly, lifesaver, love that bitch. I had tapered down considerably on my steroids, I was at maybe around 10-ish milligrams at that point in time. Going out even when it was cold, my face would react, but it happened the most in summer when when I was at indoor events, and getting more stressed or angry or hot. One of my worst triggers is when I get angry, along with alcohol, along with just being hot. Being hot. Being hot is the one. Then I started propranolol, which you can see more about in another video. I don't know what it is about having a tiny microphone attached to me that makes me want to sing more, or maybe it's still just not being on ADHD meds. Then I started propranolol in January. Was that last year or the year before? I think it was last year, which did help with some of the facial flushing, as it helped slow down my heart rate and manage my stress response to things better. However, it did not make it go away completely, and I was then seeing additional patterns in my facial flushing, which I still would get, like a lot of red, like hot red face when angry or extremely stressed. It was less often, but I was also seeing my face flushing anywhere from mildly to quite extremely every evening around the time our heating comes on. And I'm still not entirely sure of what the cause is. I have looked into it, and it's just like, it's one of them things where you're like, this is new and my brain doesn't work. So I'll try to explain it the best that I understand, but also it may not be entirely correct. But it could be anything from having, an energy crash in the evening, which is when I would get some Malta. Why is Malta in my script? Which is where I would get some more facial flushing. In the past, it would be during those like worsened energy crashes in the early afternoon, or it was possibly like the actual heating itself when it turns on. I looked into the possibility of the heating causing my flushing, and it's possible that the heating stirs up the air in the room, which makes it move, and that can make dust and dust mites move around in the air as well, which are a very common allergy for people to have. And that's like regardless of what kind of heating you have at home. It's the fact that the heating comes on and starts heating the room, and the heat itself means that the air will start moving, because warmer air weighs less than cold air. So yeah, that's science. Science. But then obviously as well, there are some kinds of heating, like, I don't, what the fuck are they called? Heating. Some people's heating in their homes, that'll do, obviously also actually works by blowing air, which obviously does then disturb any allergens like dust mites as well. I finally saw an allergist. Why does it say 2020? I finally saw an allergist in 2024, towards the end of last year at some point. I think it was maybe around November. I spoke to one on the phone. Finally, it had been a year since I had been referred. He was actually really good. He was focusing on my skin issues for now, and we would address other allergy stuff later. So we haven't addressed the other allergy stuff yet. We're still in the process of dealing with the skin, okay? He let me email him some photos for examples, and he rang back later that day to talk about them with me, which is unheard of. Unheard of. Wow. Our call was at like 10 in the morning, and he rang back at like 1. Wild. He also agreed that it was odd. He said he probably needs dermatology involved too, and advised me it might be a while as usual. And he suggested I started taking a high dose of antihistamines to see if that helped. I was meant to start taking my fexofenadine in higher dose tablets of 180 milligrams 4 times a day. At the time, I was on 120s and only once a day. However, my GP for some reason didn't do the maths to up the dose. He just made me take 6 120 milligram tablets a day. And when I asked about it and explained that the allergist said 4 a day to me, he then just mansplained how maths works. And I love how he was technically correct, but so was I, the allergist, and the dermatologist, who was also then confused by this choice when I finally saw her. Because why would you have a patient take more tablets when they could take less tablets? And also the GP told me I had to have a phone appointment with him before he would make the referral, This is also not my good and favourite GP. Don't worry, he has not betrayed me. He's still fine. This was not him. This was the other one. The other one. Yeah, he forced me to come in for an in-person or like, or, you know, phone call appointment because what the allergy consultant sent wasn't enough, according to him, for a referral. I looked at that letter and it was everything the GP then proceeded to ask me again. He just asked me the same things as I'd already been asked and what the allergy consultant had already asked me and decided I needed a referral for. This is something that's happened a few times now with my GP practice that never used to happen before. That when a specialist requests a referral on the patient's behalf to a GP, I've had to go like have a conversation with them about it. Why? Why do I have to have a conversation about it? I've already done my part. I've done my part. And then also, yeah, having to do that appointment then meant that the referral was delayed by 2 weeks because I couldn't get an appointment with him for 2 weeks. And that was literally like random cancellation as well. Otherwise, you don't get appointments with GPs for like a month at the moment. The allergist also asked me to do some blood work, which was for just like many common allergies, which did come back saying that I have a dust mite allergy. So, you know, I'm not special. Lots of people have that allergy, but it's nice to know that I actually have an allergy that I can name and can try to manage and avoid triggers for. Luckily, my appointment to see the dermatologist didn't actually take as long as we were expecting. I thought it would be something like what I had to wait for allergy, which was like a year or more. But I saw, why does that say allergist? The dermatologist in late January of this year. It was also quite a late appointment in the evening with the community dermatologist. Also managed to leave all of my notes in the car. Very good. So I was struggling to explain my experience and my symptoms, but she did already have a look at the photos I'd sent to the allergist and all of my notes, which was nice because honestly, a lot of doctors just don't bother. Much like the specialist cardio, who keeps sending me for tests where they need to do blood pressure on my arm that has no pulse. Don't know how many times I need to say it, but this is why it would have been helpful to at least have some kind of appointment directly with the consultant before all of these tests, because this is taking the piss. She wanted me to go over some of the same things, you know, which is fine. We were focusing again, obviously, on the skin aspect, as it's, you know, dermatology is skin. We did discuss that I could possibly have rosacea as well as chronic urticaria. Great. She definitely agrees that there is an element of contact allergy / contact dermatitis, as evidenced in some of my photos and notes in the original email. But she did also say that the photos from my Crohn's flare up in 2019 actually do kind of look a lot like hives, which is an interesting point. Never thought of that before. I said that I haven't had skin issues like those Crohn's related ones since then, really, because that was, I can't remember if I'd already started my adalimumab yet, but either way, like shortly after starting adalimumab, I was on quite high dose steroids, and that definitely like got rid of it. And yeah, I told her that generally being on steroids, on high dose steroids, I've noticed has really helped that side of things with my skin. But obviously not ideal to be using steroids to deal with allergy response, especially something chronic and kind of weird like my personal experience. But yeah, also your body does build a tolerance to them, and anyway, especially if you use a topical steroid cream, you can really struggle coming off of them because your skin does become reliant on the steroid cream, which sucks to come off of. So obviously you want to avoid any of that going on for all of those reasons. I've also been stuck on steroid tablets now for like near 5 years. You know, it's not going to cure me, so we need to try and find other ways to manage it. Basically, we need to find something that works longer term. She does also think that, yeah, there is evidence that I could probably have like a strange type of chronic urticaria that is in a like a deeper level of my skin. So instead of it being on this top surface layer, it's one of those deeper layers, which is it's weird. That's weird. I didn't know that was a thing either until these appointments. So great. Good for me. Because, yeah, she did also note that there were a couple of photos where there were occasionally like small one-off bumps that looked more like normal hives. So she thinks that the rest of the reddening is possibly, yeah, the deeper level of skin like experiencing hives, while some are still surface level. Both the allergy consultant and the dermatology consultant agreed that I would need to go and get some allergy testing done on my back, you know, like the patch testing. However, by the time that we had left to go home, dermatology doctor did ring us, and she had a conversation with her colleague who was there as well after we'd left, and they suggested that I would actually need to get this patch testing done at the hospital or via the hospital, rather than the community dermatology, because of the numerous immunosuppressive medications I am already on. This may impact the kind of test results, the kind of tests that they do, how those tests show. So annoyingly, I now have to wait for that to happen. I did recently get an appointment letter, which was sometime like mid-June. So I've still got ages until that happens. My frustrations about this concern around my medication, though, is that I have been on these medications on and off through the last 5 years or more, and I am still clearly getting allergy responses. So I don't see why I would need to go to the hospital for this type of patch testing when the concern is that the patch testing may not show anything because my immune system is suppressed by these medications for many years, but I'm still getting allergic reactions. I don't see what I mean. Kind of contradictory overall. So yeah, I don't know what difference that would do, but also like they do patch testing on an area that isn't common for like me to have flare-ups. They will probably do them on my back is what I've been told, which also may or may not be actually helpful for working out what allergies I even have, as the majority of my allergies or allergic reactions tend to come out on my face more than anywhere else. So I am a bit concerned that the patch testing being done on my back may just be pointless. But who knows? I've done lots of pointless tests, including, for some reason, having my bloods taken twice in one sitting for the same test. Like, why did I get 5 vials taken when I only needed 3 tests done? That hurt. When it came to talking to the dermatologist about medication I'm on, it's unfortunate and annoying that I'm already on 3 immunosuppressants because, you know, so yeah, my azathioprine, my adalimumab, and the steroids still, though they are low dose. She said that they often prescribe adalimumab for chronic urticaria. So to see that it hasn't really helped or has only helped in some ways is a bit discouraging. They did also say that chronic urticaria with this particular kind of presentation is one of the hardest kinds of urticaria to actually treat. Yay me. I don't know when I'm seeing dermatology again. Like I said, I don't have an appointment in for them yet. I only have my patch testing appointment booked in, but we did discuss that if, like, whenever I do return, that we will probably discuss options for treatment and combating rosacea, because I think they have to also like confirm it's not rosacea first, or at least confirm it's not all rosacea before trying to treat rosacea. Did anything I just said make sense? Because I am lost. I've lost myself. But hopefully they'll be able to at least give me some advice for managing general redness if it is rosacea. And also I'm hoping that maybe I could come back to discuss other like dermatology related issues. Like I have developed some skin tags around my neck. Apparently there's a few reasons that can happen, even from literally just like, someone thinks it could be because I wear my necklace air purifier now. Who knows? But yeah, there's like a few different possibilities as to why that happens, and as well, like maybe the chronic sweating. Like I have said, the ADHD meds definitely worse than that, and I'm starting to speculate that my ADHD medication was also worsening my chronic urticaria in my face, or rosacea, because I feel like that has definitely improved as well since being off of my ADHD meds. I can't actually remember the last time I had a like fucking flare up, so I'm like actually kind of concerned about that. I have now had my first skin flare up since being off of my ADHD medication. Insert photos here. It was actually a lot more calm and minimal compared to what my skin has been feeling and looking like when on my ADHD medication. Again, I still don't actually know if there's a correlation. I have been trying to look into it. There's been a few people posting on Reddit, especially women, interestingly enough, that yeah, I think there is some kind of relationship here between maybe stimulant medication or maybe just methylphenidate in general, possibly worsening people's pre-existing allergies or facial flushing, or actually this is what possibly a mild allergy to methylphenidate could look like. Again, no idea. Can't find a lot about it. So this is one of those times where I'm like, if you know things and want to send me links, please do. I really want to understand this more, because I don't get it. So, but yeah, that's the current update at this moment in time. That I still have allergies. They are just not as often or as bad as when I was on my methylphenidate medication. So weird. Like, did it worsen a condition I have? If so, how? Can I avoid that depending on what other medications I try for ADHD? Like, fuck my life, man. I thought I was one of the lucky ones where the ADHD meds didn't give me loads of shitty side effects. But no, it does, and I hate everything. But also, yeah, like the ADHD meds made the sweating worse, but I do feel like I have developed just worsened excessive sweating overall. Maybe they would have some advice or thoughts or tests for that. And also, like, I'm starting to wonder how this stuff connects with the dysautonomia kind of flare-ups, because they do tend to go together, even if I'm missing some of those typical dysautonomia kind of symptoms. It's one of those things that seem to definitely go hand in hand with each other, but it's hard to really know. And a lot of these things don't have enough research or funding for research to actually get to the bottom of some of these issues. Anyway, we're near the end of the video, don't worry. At the moment, the triggers that I have come to understand for my urticaria, so yeah, the chronic hives slash facial flushing, are heat, whether that's external heat or internal heat, like I said, possibly worsened by my ADHD meds, possibly worsened by stress, possibly worsened by alcohol. Those sorts of things can cause like an internal warmth, I feel. Pressure, such as like the blood pressure cuffs. Like, it's weird finding out that you can be allergic to just being squashed. Although I would like someone to squash my ribs. Oh man, that hurt, bitch. Scratches as well. I especially like if I catch myself on the face or around the neck, that can also do the whole like red spreading kind of thing and turn into like an urticaria flare up, rather than just a there is a word for it, but I can't remember what it is, where like if you scratch your skin, it kind of just flares up red around those scratches quite quickly and for a long time. I don't do I have that? I don't really have sharp enough nails to do that. I feel like every time I catch myself on something, it's there for ages. Actually, if I. Oh, yeah. There's a couple of lines. Like that, but like longer. More amount of time. And it doesn't really matter what the cause is, whether it's myself, furniture, animal, someone else, etc. It all kind of usually looks the same. Stress, obviously, as discussed. Overexertion. Sometimes that can be after having to like physically move around a lot, physical exertion, moving really fast or lifting things that are heavy. As I get this often, like when I'm traveling for markets or traveling to London for appointments, I often have like a heavy bag with me, either because it's full of my market stuff or it's like supplies for the day. I like that's a lot of physical exertion. But it can also happen on like quite sedentary days if I've done too much exertion mentally, like I've done a lot of work. So it can kind of come on in the evenings if I've done too much work. That's why I sort of have that early afternoon, early evening kind of crash time. And I usually get these like pink patches on my face. Contact allergens, as we've already discussed. Alcohol, already discussed. Also occasionally other ingested substances, like sometimes caffeine can do it, sometimes it's fine. Hay fever, dust mites can also cause the sort of skin allergies. So yeah, after all this, generally what I'd like to get from seeing dermatology and allergy are hopefully working out what some of my allergy slash facial flushing triggers are, if I didn't know them already, possibly finding treatment for these allergies, if it is rosacea as well or only rosacea, how to treat it, how to manage it, how to cover it up. Because I don't wear anything on my skin really. I sometimes wear primers, that's or like a BB cream, but that's kind of it. And then yeah, generally overall to help minimize and lessen the flare-ups that I do have that are on my face. And then as well, obviously, hopefully with allergy especially, finding out some of these same things but for my other allergy responses, like my fucked up sinuses, nasal drip that I can also hear in my ears sometimes when I'm laying down to sleep, being bunged up, being very phlegmy and snotty, and not being able to like breathe or say things because I feel like I'm drowning in mucus, and my eyes crying, either because certain products are used around my face or because of hay fever or whatever else. And the wheeziness, that's an annoying one. I would like to get some help with the wheeziness because that's something that I found really interesting actually. I'll throw that in at the end here. When I was talking to Allergy about some of the wheeziness as well, he was like, oh, well, they probably haven't done a full proper asthma test. So I was like, yeah, I've done asthma tests, but because I have been a singer, I know how to breathe. I know how to breathe. I have a stronger diaphragm than I used to have. So I'm quite good at that. The one where you go and like you see how far you can blow the thing out, what number it goes to. Then also I did those breathing tests a while back that show that I breathe in very deeply, like more deeply than other people. But he was like, no, there's more tests for that. So I was like, amazing. I will definitely, I'm definitely willing to do more asthma tests if you think I've got like an allergy related asthma, because my mum has hay fever related asthma. And I mean, come on, it must be relatively common to go through families like that, right? But yeah, that's kind of it for now. Like, there's not really an end to this. It's just I'm sharing some of this information that I've learned because I've started to see chronic urticaria popping up a lot in my algorithm, probably because my phone's spying on me and can see what I'm typing into Google and just delivers it to me on YouTube. But it seems like more people are talking about chronic urticaria and things like that. So I wanted to also talk about my own experience because it's been really fucking annoying. It is one where it's not really been that obvious what's going on. Like, are you embarrassed? Are you stressed? Is there a lot of adrenaline in your system? Is that an allergy? It could be all of the above. So yeah, like there's definitely more things I want to discuss about this topic in particular. Obviously, further allergies as well outside of skin stuff. But I kind of wanted to give you like a general basis and background for me and what I've kind of been going through in this last 6 months or so when it comes to allergy related treatment. Let me know if you have any questions. Feel free to share your experiences down below. Currently, no advice at the moment, thank you, because I just want to get through some of these tests, like, so I can kind of actually know what's going on before I start asking, hey, what are the products that work best for you? Because like I said, at the moment I don't know if it's really allergy or rosacea or maybe both. So I don't want to ask, hey, what's the best products for covering up a red fucking face, when I might actually just be fucking allergic to something and I need to deal with that, you know? But that's it from me this week. What video should you go and watch? Let me have a look. 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 Well, I do actually have a video where I discuss all the stuff about adalimumab in particular. I combined all of my past videos into one, so that could be a good place for you to start when looking at what adalimumab is like to take, side effects, things like that. Again, I feel like I have been quite lucky with adalimumab. I don't really get a lot of side effects from it anymore, if at all, if I ever did. But that's a good one for like related topics and learning things. So you should go check that one out. But that's it from me this week. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and I will see you next week. Bye.